what does loyalty really look like when things get hard?
You can't bond with them, aloof, stubborn, and I saw a version of myself. Those are all the same labels that, I had been given growing up. This dog just needed somebody to take a chance on them. Worked together for 7 years. We did about 10,000 searches, 500 calls for service. He got his cancer in July. Tambo usually greets me, but he was nowhere to be found. They came out and said, look, he's in the process of dying right now. He's bleeding out. The odds of him making it through this surgery are pretty grim. This was the turning point for me, Jennifer. I looked at this dog and I looked in his eyes, and I always say the eyes are the window to the soul. And he was telling me he wasn't ready. It was a cancer called hemangiosarcoma. He powered through that like the fighter that he was. We got a standing ovation from 70,000 people. He starts barking. It was a bark to say that I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm not done yet.
Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast, where girls isn't about gender, it's about grit. We celebrate the dreamers, the builders, and the difference makers bold enough to start. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. So today we're chatting with Chris Bingham, handler and partner to retired federal police K9 Tambo. After a decorated career protecting high-level government assets, Tambo is now in a different kind of fight, battling an aggressive cancer diagnosis at 11 years old. With the support of Project K9 Hero, he continues to defy the odds and inspire people across the country. And so I'm just going to stop right there because I want to let Chris talk about this and share this story. And so, Chris, I just want to say welcome to Starter Girlz Podcast. We are so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I know we've been going back and forth trying to link up, so I'm finally it's finally great to get on here with you and tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that happens, and I always believe there's a timing and a place for everything. So today is that day, right?
Yes,
Today's the day to get on here and tell that story. So, and I love your backdrop that you've got back there. What a just amazing. I love it. It's like, it's so fun. As like I mentioned to you before, this as a pet person, I love it. I feel like maybe I should get me like a, put all my pets on there that I want to pay tribute to and stuff. Just put them all back there. I think it's awesome. So.
Yeah, so I ideally I'd like to have Tambo with me, so I figured this was the next best thing, and through the contacts on Instagram, I was able to link up with a renowned K9 photographer, and this is one of the shots that we took in my hometown of Tambo, so I thought it was a good picture to put in the background. So
yeah, I love it. So awesome. Okay. So I want you to back us up on this and tell us a little bit about the beginning, like how you two were paired up and how long you've been together. Kind of give us the story behind all this.
Sure. So I've been in law enforcement now for 24 years. And so I had worked two dogs over the span of about 15 years, retired both of them. And that was when I was on an assignment in Hawaii. And so both of those dogs retired, and I had taken on some other leadership positions, and I was pretty content. Life was good. I was living in Hawaii, had both my retired dogs, and then, within a year of each other, they both got cancer and passed away. And so any canine handler knows when that happens, losing your partner like that, dogs that you're so bonded with that you spend more time with than your spouses, your other family member, your kids. It takes a piece of your soul. And there's nothing better than being a canine handler, but the hardest part is saying goodbye to your partner. So when I lost both of them within a year, I kind of told myself, as much as canine is my passion, I can never go back into it. But what I say is, once a handler, always a handler, and it pulled me back in, and I ended up coming back as the commander of the unit, which was a great honor. And initially they weren't going to give me a dog because they said, in that position, you're leading a team of a lot of dogs, and you're going to be too busy. And so I went back and forth with my boss for about a year asking for a dog. And then finally I kind of wore on her, and I thought I was going to go out to our vendor and pick out this brand new dog. But the deal is if I wanted a dog, I had to take Tambo. So, and
That's awesome.
so the story on that is Tambo was a dog on our unit that had gone through a few different handlers, was kind of known as, you couldn't bond with him. He wasn't aggressive, just you didn't have that instant bond with him, and he kind of just wanted to do things on his own. And so when she told me that, I was a little hesitant on taking him because I was like, I don't know. Because, I had seen Tambo many times in our unit, and we were like two passing ships on the night. And I was just like, I don't know about this one. But something inside of me said, to say yes. And I did. And, that was the start of the journey. And I remember, and I've talked about this in other interviews, as I go up to get him out of the kennel that Monday morning, and we're just kind of looking at each other. And he's looking at me, and I'm seeing all these labels that were put on him. You can't bond with him. It's aloof, stubborn, and I saw a version of myself. Those are all the same labels that I had been given growing up, because I kind of grew up having to fend for myself. I grew up without my dad, and it was I've always kind of had that underdog mentality and the scratch and claw to get where I needed to be. But it always took, special people in my life taking a chance on me. And I saw this as kind of a full circle moment where this dog just needed somebody to take a chance on them. And right then and there, it kind of hit me that, this was something bigger.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the start of it.
And how long have you guys been paired together now?
So after that, we worked together for 7 years, and, it wasn't an instant bond. Tambo needed consistency, and, it sounds very simple, but that's what he needed. He needed somebody to show up every day. So I didn't take him home right away. I came in, I fed him his breakfast at the same time every day. I took him for walks, and, I slowly started to break down those barriers. And it's funny, that's kind of how it is with me too, when with relationships and stuff like that, is that it takes a while for me for me to trust people, and you kind of have to build up that trust. And I saw those same things with Tambo. So just being consistent in our training, and then over time, I was really able to chip away at that armor. And we were rocking and rolling after that with our career. We did about 10,000 searches, 500 calls for service. We had a great career together, and like I said, worked a full 7 years before we retired.
That's interesting. You know what? And I want to say something about all of this, because I love that you talk this. Pet people get this, and I absolutely get what you're saying. I actually have a pet sitting business, and so I know, and I always say this, like when I go into a situation with somebody's pets, like I literally have to, I feel them. Like I feel them out, and I will not I will not bombard them. If I can tell, and I grew up around Shepherds and Dobermans, so I've always been around big dogs, and so I get it. I'm actually more scared of little dogs, believe it or not, than I am the big ones, but I always feel them out. But I also want to say something to what you said about those labels and things and that we put, because I think this is, whether it's a dog or a human, it doesn't matter, right? So when one of our mini pets that we adopt, all of ours have been adopted pets that we've gone to a shelter and we picked them up. And literally, I will tell you the story that in 2014, we walked into the shelter with the intent to pick up another dog. This dog was gone. So we see this big-headed pit bull. I mean, huge-headed dog in this thing, holding this blanket in his mouth. And I had never owned a pit bull. Like I said, I had Shepherds, Dobermans, but never been around pit bull. And I was scared actually to death of these dogs because of everything that you hear about them. So we go in, we're like, we're going to get this dog. And the reason I get this dog is because it's sitting in here. It's like no one's picking this dog up. And I'm feeling like I'm like the underdog person. I'm feeling, okay, we're going to take this dog in. But what I want to say about this dog was probably, out of all my pets I've ever had, was like the most loyal and faithful dog to me. Like, that dog slept by me every night. That dog, like, literally would be by my side everywhere I went. He aimed to please. He was completely misunderstood, but was like the most loyal and faithful dog. And the reason I'm saying this to you is because one of the things, when he passed away, I was like devastated at first. Like, I was just, for like a couple weeks, I was struggling. And I actually wrote this letter when I got done to myself, like if he had written this to me. And what I realized in this process of all of this, he had taught me so many things. Like, and one of those was, in all the years I had pets, this unconditional love and this misunderstatement of labeling. Because here, I'm looking at this dog and I'm thinking he's mean and he's evil and all these things. And that dog was like, he'd roll over for me. Like, I mean, he was just always right there. And he'd come out and he's like this big, stocky, big dog, looking mean and everything. But he taught me so many things about loyalty and faithfulness. And just, even when he passed in our house. Like, I didn't even know he was dying. Like, I put him in a room. I come back in there, he just passed. And it was like, he never even let us know that he would. That's how, like, strong and like, I mean, it was the craziest thing. But I have said, I've loved all my dogs. I've loved every one of them that I have. But that one, I still, in fact, if you go to my Facebook profile, my personal Facebook profile, I still have a picture of me and that dog. He's been dead since he died. He passed in 2020. And he's still in my Facebook profile. I still have him there. So I just want to say, I'm saying that all to you to I guess maybe pass on as a fellow, pet person, that yes, I get that when they're there, they're there, and I don't know what that looks like in your line of work, but I what I say is that I know how I felt having that faithful companion there,
Well,
So.
I'll tell you, Jennifer, I always say it doesn't have to be a working dog, but every dog has I always say this, every dog has a story to tell, right? And they all have a journey, and they're all out there to impact us in certain ways. And I always say is we as humans sometimes don't deserve dogs because they're such loyal creatures, and they're such stoic animals. And you're right, a lot of times they don't show the pain, and they're there for us regardless of what they're going through. It's unconditional love. And it's something that is very simple, but something that, us as humans can take so much away with the simplicity of how animals and dogs and, specifically dogs, how they live their life.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree with you on all of that. I say the same thing. I feel bad. I go into all of these. I support, like, in a lot of these I send, to animal shelters. I'm like, I could give probably all my money to a shelter where animals go. I have to, like, tell myself, stop, you can't save them all, but they don't. I agree. They don't. We don't deserve them a lot of times. And they teach. I really feel like they teach us such great life skills. I mean, like you said, just what it's like to have that stoic companion there. And I mean, no matter what, you walk in the door, they're there, and they aim to please and be that companion for you, So, hey, you're here. So first of all, thanks for tuning in today. And since you're already here, you're probably going to want more of this. So make sure you check out startergirlz.com. That's where you can catch up on any episodes you may have missed. Get signed up for our newsletter so you can stay in the loop on everything we've got going on. And if you're looking to go a little deeper, you can also check out our Starter Girlz Insider community. That's where we take these conversations beyond the podcast with tools, workshops, and real conversation so you can take what you're learning and actually start applying it. So as I always say, head on over to startergirlz.com and do your thing. So I love it. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with Tambo now, where he's at, where you guys are at, and then we'll kind of talk some more about but I want to know where y'all are at right now.
Yeah, so he retired. He at 9 years old, he had a on-the-job injury. He tore a ligament in his right leg, so it significantly hampered his working ability, but it wasn't going to impact him too much in retirement. So we avoided surgery. So we went into retirement, and it was good timing because at 47, I had the birth of my first child, and my son was born. And, Tambo kind of found his second job in retirement, which was protecting my son. And it's funny, one of the labels he was given before is that he was terrible with children, and that couldn't have been further thing from the truth, because I think he saw my son as an extension of me. And so he would sit by his bassinet or his crib, and anytime my son cried, he would bark and alert us, and he never left his side. So he was kind of enjoying that role in retirement. And then he had another setback. He had a double ACL tear. So what a lot of people don't know in dogs is one ACL tears, the other one's prone to tear. So he was chasing a squirrel in the yard one day, and then he had the double ACL tear. And that's when Project K9 Hero kind of came into our life. And I had met the founder, Jason Johnson, a few years earlier at a canine conference, and he had helped another dog on our unit. For those that aren't aware what Project K9 Hero is or what they do, is they're a national nonprofit that helps out retired police and military working dogs in retirement. So another tidbit is when these dogs retire, there's no healthcare system set up for them in retirement. So that burden of cost falls on the handler, which that's when they really kind of need us, and they really start getting into a lot of health issues and stuff like that. So just for the one surgery alone on his ACL was $7,500. So Project K9 Hero brought him into the program. They funded the surgery. We got him back to a full recovery. And I'm a type of person that likes to give back. So then that's when Tambo kind of became an ambassador for Project K9 Hero. So we started doing a lot of events, and we did the Baltimore Orioles, and then on Tambo's 11th birthday, we got honored by the Philadelphia Phillies, which was awesome. My son was there. They sang happy birthday to him, and we had him up on the big screen. So life was good. And that's when, he got his cancer diagnosis in July. And how all that came about is it was a normal morning. I went to work. Even in retirement, Tambo still tries to come to work with me. So I fed him his breakfast at 5 a.m. He tried to leave for work with me. And this is where something higher came in. I got to work that day, and I was feeling really off. I was getting, palpitations. I felt really sick, and I never leave work early. And something told me that day I needed to leave work early. So, I told them I had to go home, and, I was just planning to go home and lay down. And when I walked in the door, Tambo usually greets me, but he was nowhere to be found. And so I ended up finding him in the dining room. He was sprawled out. His gums were very pale. Couldn't even stand on his feet. Very lethargic. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew it was a life or death situation at that point. So I rushed him over to the emergency vet, and they took him back, and they did an ultrasound. And I remember this vividly. They came out and said, "Look, he's in the process of dying right now. He's bleeding out. His spleen is covered in what we believe are cancer masses, and one of them ruptured, and now he's bleeding out." So at that point they said, "Look, we can try to do surgery, but what that's going to entail is we're going to have to remove the spleen, and we're going to have to give him a blood transfusion. And by the way, that's going to cost anywhere from $9,000 to $12,000." So they said that the odds of him making it through this surgery are pretty grim. But I'd say this was the turning point for me, Jennifer. I looked at this dog, and this is a dog that I was really bonded with, and I looked in his eyes, and I always say the eyes are the window to the soul. And he was telling me he wasn't ready. He said, "Dad, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go." And I told them right then and there, I said, I want to move forward with the surgery. And I called Jason up from Project K9 Hero, and I told him what was going on. And all he asked me is like, "Chris, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Jason, he's not ready. He's not ready to go. He's telling me he's not ready." And he said, "We got your back, 100%. And they funded the surgery. And Tambo made it through the surgery, was up and eating within 2 days, which was kind of unheard of. That just shows the fighter that he is. And then they told me from there, we got to wait for the biopsy results to come back, which was going to take a few days. And they said that, if it is cancer like we suspect, he's probably only has about 2 weeks to live from here. So, of course, the biopsy came back, and it was cancer, and it was a cancer called hemangiosarcoma. So for those that aren't familiar with that, it's a very aggressive and terminal cancer. the odds of dogs living past a few weeks or even a month is very low odds. So next step was getting an appointment with with an oncologist. So I live in the northern Maryland area, so I found one right outside of a good team at Blue Pearl Hospital in Malvern, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. And that's when I got my oncology appointment set up with him, and that's when we kind of started the journey. And I remember vividly going in there, and they're like, "Look, if the cancer has spread to the liver, the chemotherapy is not going to be able to do anything." But and he doesn't have much time. But they took him back for this ultrasound, and they came back and they said, what we thought was the cancer on the liver wasn't, and he was a candidate for chemotherapy. So we started chemo that day, and that was kind of the start of the whole journey. And again, chemo sessions were running about $700 a session. I called Project K9 Hero up. They didn't blink an eye. They said, we'll fund it, and we started chemo, and we did about 5 sessions, one every 2 weeks. And, he had his good days and bad days. Normally after the third day, he was very nauseous, didn't want to eat. But he powered through that like the fighter that he was. And that's when I really started to want to document the journey on social media, just to kind of show, what these dogs go through in retirement and the fight. And it really started to resonate with people, but I didn't want to make it all, gloom or doom. So I tried to do some fun stuff in some dark times. So I did like a little John Cena thing where we wore Never Give Up t-shirts on one of the days, and we took pictures, and I had him come out to John Cena's theme song, and then I did a Rocky theme where he came out in a boxing outfit and with gloves on, and I had the No Easy Way Out theme song, playing, and it really started to resonate with people, where I wasn't only, resonating with the working dog community, but now I was resonating with actually people going through chemotherapy and cancer, where people were reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I'm going through chemo right now, and I'm having a really hard time, and I wanted to quit, but I see Tambo fighting, and that inspires me to fight more." And where it hit me really deep, Jennifer, is when parents started reaching out to me and saying that their son or daughter is going through cancer, and Tambo's pictures or his little themes are giving them light in a dark time. And that really hit me deep, especially being a new father. And so from there, I knew I wanted, we were on a journey that was much bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to say it is. And, and the thing is, that was going to be one of my questions, is why do you think it's resonating with so many people? And you answered that really. I think it's not, I mean, as a pet person, I see this reaching so many levels. Like there's something about that, when you're talking about animals, people love they can feel those stories. But at the same time, I think this is such an interesting thing, because I mean, our pets are amazing creatures. So I just think they are fighters. And I think that, when it's the right time to do what you need to do. You know what I mean? And I think if your gut's
100%.
telling you to research and to do fight,
Yeah. And I think you have
and
to
they
go,
let us know.
You have to go with that gut. And we were so bonded and connected. And, it's funny. And also, with me seeing him, that telling me he wasn't ready, for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. And, my first, when that happens, the first thing is I started to get emotional. But I realized for 7 years, I always call him my security blanket. He's been by my side through some of the hardest times in my life. That silent presence, that loyal presence that's beside you. And I knew right then and there that it was now my time to be there for him where he needed me. And the roles kind of reversed. And, so he's continued to fight. And one of the things, when he had his bad days in chemo, I think my role has been is being that upbeat personality. When he started to lag or lose hope, I would breathe life back into him. And I think with anything, like you said, Jennifer, you have to have hope. and you have to have that never give up mentality. And I think when we lose that, that's when the odds, start to decrease. But I think anything's possible when you're willing to fight and you're willing to look at things through a positive lens and have positive influences behind you. And I've tried to do that for Tambo, and I think that's one of the reasons that he's still here today and he's thriving.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to ask you this question because I think I love this story, the beginning story about how you were hesitant and like this is like almost like divine intervention. Like I feel like these things happen. They come in your life to teach you these messages, right? Like I think these most. But did you grow like when you were a child? Did you grow up around pet dogs? I mean, have you all, or was it, or did you move into this when you went into your career?
Well, I'm going to give you the full circle moment in a second of how this story was really meant to come together, and it's really going to hit a lot of people. But so my dad left when I was a baby, and I always say that I lost my best friend before I even had him, and I grew up with my mom, and she did everything she could to take care of my sister and I. But for a boy growing up without his dad, it's tough, and sometimes you go through that self-doubt of feeling like you're not good enough, and you do put that armor up, but and so it took me a while to build my confidence growing up. So I was the type that I would go to the family events, and I'd always gravitate toward the animal was in the pet in the house, and we always bonded. And my mom would always say when I was younger that you're going to do something with dogs when you're older. So I kind of knew that it was going to be something along those lines. So with my father, he was kind of in and out of my life, and it was always that void. And we would see each other for a while, and then he would disappear, and we never were really able to connect on a deeper level. So fast forward, I had my son. I became a father myself, and which brought forward a lot of other emotions, because I'm looking at my son, and I'm like, man, how could my dad not be there for me when I was, small like this, right. And had all these emotions going on. Right. And then my dad comes back into my life shortly after Tambo's cancer diagnosis and tells me that he's been diagnosed with cancer. And he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and was supposed to make a full recovery at first. And, but again, going back, my dad and I have never really been able to connect, but there was one way that he started to connect with me, and that was through Tambo. So he was opening up by asking me how Tambo was, how was his chemotherapy. And then slowly he would start to open up about what he was going through and how he was feeling. And we really broke through some layers that we were never able to break through before. And long story short, he was living in Florida at the time. And, I got to take my son out there, and I got to see, my dad with my son, and I got to see my dad love my son. And it was healing for me because I got to see all the things that I didn't get when I was a young boy. And I was almost living vicariously through my son and seeing my dad, so affectionate with my son. And I got to see another side of my dad that I hadn't seen before. And we really connected. And, I was not, so at that point I was there for my dad and Tambo through, both of their cancer battles. My dad was doing great. And then he had a stroke while he was going through chemo, and he had some cognitive issues. And then I found out that it wasn't going to be conducive for him to continue with chemotherapy. And, quickly after that, he ended up going into hospice. But I had another visit, and we got to say all the things that we needed to say to each other. We both got our closure. Wow. He apologized to me, for the first time in my life. He told me he was proud of me. And, I told him he was still my hero, regardless of what we've been through, because he was my dad. And we really reconciled and connected. Yeah. And what I'm trying to say is that none of that would have been possible without this dog behind me. And that's what brought us together. So rewind back to the guy that was hesitant to take this dog. And then that first day in the kennel, looking at this dog, looking in his eyes, and seeing the same labels that I grew up with, and the stuff that formed because of not having my dad around, and then full circle beating this cancer and then inspiring all these people, and then full circle bringing me back together with my dad at the end, which it's a beautiful story. And it's something that
Yeah.
I can't make up. And my dad ended up passing away, 2 weeks ago. And
Oh,
I was,
wow.
I was,
Sorry.
I was pretty, it was pretty hard,
Yeah.
but, I had that when I found out, I was really upset and I had that panic, but then there was a sense of peace that came over me because I was able to get that closure with him. And not many people that have those relationships with their parent that they're estranged from end up getting that closure and that reconciliation at the end. So there was a sense of peace that came over me that, I was able to get that with my dad, before he passed away. And, on our last visit, Tambo has a bunch of apparel out there that, he was wearing Tambo's shirt, and he loved that, he was representing Tambo and me, and, he was continuing to fight, up until the end. And, he got to see me publish my children's book, which just came out in March. And, so that meant a lot to me that he was around to see that get published. And, and all the inspiration of all the people that were fighting, and my son and my dad is what inspired me to write that book. And the theme of the book is it's called K9 Tambo, and you can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But the theme of the story is that it's about Tambo who gets sick, but it's in a way for a child to understand. And it says that he gets better with medicine, but along the way, he inspires children who feel unseen or sick not to be scared and continue to fight even when the odds say they shouldn't. And so it's a really nice story. And in the back, it's got a resource guide for parents and teachers on, how to go over, how to talk about, what they learned in the book. And then it's got a couple, real pictures of Tambo in the back. And, I just named it K9 Tambo because it's going to be a series, and eventually I'm going to introduce my other canines as characters into the book. But the theme of every book is going to be, it's going to be a great story for children, but it's also going to be a way for self-help for them to continue to develop.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important, because I know what I went through as a young child, and not understanding why my dad wasn't around and feeling unseen. And then also with seeing with some of these children are going through with cancer today, and how much of warriors they are and how they fight through that. And I just wanted to get back. And so I've already got a bunch of, book signings set up. I'm going to be doing a lot of readings at Barnes and Noble for kids and stuff. So I'm really excited about that.
This is oh my gosh, Chris. Okay, I have to say, there's not very many people that can make me actually tear up. And this story is like, I'm sitting here like, I'm like holding this together. I'm telling you, like, I am not a crier. Only time I cry is when I'm mad. And you give me a good story about a dog and stuff. This story is like, oh my gosh. Listen, I am so glad that you and your father were able to get to that place, because I'm telling you, you know what? It's these stories like this. It does not matter what brings the people back together. It happened to be Tambo, right? Him bringing y'all back together. But what a freaking story. I'm like, do not start crying on this episode.
And I'll tell you,
like, wow.
it was, you think about, here's the dog that nobody wanted on the team, that was just misguided, that was just looking for somebody for him to tell his story to, right? And just like people had taken a chance on me in my life, it was my time to take on a chance on him. And look what and a lot of people that I've talked to would have let him go in that emergency vet office. And look how much of this story he still had to tell since then. And it also kind of came full circle, is that, Tambo and I really leaned into the Rocky theme, the Underdog theme, and we were getting our chemo outside of, Philadelphia. And this is another full circle moment. While he was going through it, the Philadelphia Eagles, contacted me, and they loved Tambo's story. So they ended up honoring us on Sunday Night Football last November. And they brought, Tambo and I out and it's on my Instagram that you can see the video, but they brought Tambo and I out in the first quarter, and they talked about, Tambo's fight, and now, fighting the fight of his life against an aggressive cancer, and just given 2 weeks to live. And, we got a standing ovation from 70,000 people. And it was crazy because as the crowd cheered and they talked about his cancer battle, you can see on the video, Tambo comes to life and he starts barking. And it wasn't an aggressive bark. It was a bark to say that I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm not done yet. And for me, also being that underdog, and here we are in a national spotlight, two underdogs standing there together, it still gives me goosebumps to talk about that moment as well.
So crazy. It's such an awesome story. I mean, to think, it's like you think about things like this, and it's such a larger than just you moment, really. Like now it's gotten so, and I do follow your pages, so I do see what you're doing over there. And yeah, it's a story. It's definitely I want to say a feel good story. It's a sad moment, but it's become a feel good story. And that the fight, right? Like it's all about the fight and the resilience and the loyalty and all of and for anybody that understands that, gets it, and I don't know about you, but I tell you, stuff like this, just like I don't want to say I don't like humans, because obviously I do like humans, right? We all like humans, but there's something about, it's funny because I go on these, like I have this pet sitting business, and just today, like before I came here, I had to go check on these. I have a client, I have several, but one of my clients, I go in every week and I just go in, and basically they have two little dogs, and I just let them out and I get them excited. I take them out and I bring them in, bring their treats in. But I laugh about this because sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is a good day because all I got to do is go hang out with pets. Like, I'm excited. I'm just going to go hang out with dogs and cats, and they're going to like me. Every once in a while, I get one that's not probably well-trained or whatever, and they don't really like me, and then I stay back. But most of those days are so good because it's so fun being around them. Like, they're just lovable, and fun to be around. So sometimes I say I like my pets more than I do like humans,
Yeah. It's funny because like you're talking about those pets, and that's probably the highlight of their day. Part of their day is when you come by, and I think that's why so many people resonated with Tambo, is regardless of going through this cancer battle, he woke up every day and chose happiness, right? Just the simplicity of getting his breakfast or going for a car ride, or you can see some of the videos on my Instagram with him getting his pup cup, which now has become a staple for him.
Yes, the pup cups.
So these dogs, they continue to choose happiness regardless of what they're facing, and I think that's why so many people can resonate.
You and I could talk about pets all day, but I tell you that the Catahoula that passed in January, my daughter, my middle one, would come over and take him to go get a pup cup. And so I'm not kidding you, Chris, she walks in the door. The dog cannot walk anymore because he's going paralyzed, and he'd be like trying to get to her because he knows she's coming in. There's the potential for the pup cup. He loves.
That's right.
So on his very last day, we couldn't take him for the pup cup, but we had a can of, the whipped cream.
Whipped cream.
Oh, we had a feast. We gave him the whipped cream and all. Like, he loved the pup cup. So that's why I was laughing. The dogs and the pup cups. It's so great. I love this story, and I'm so glad that you wrote a book and that you're doing. I did not even know you did that part. I missed that part. So you just got all this done in like March. So congratulations, because doing books is I've done a book, no easy feat to do. I mean, congratulations.
Well, and that's just the start of it. I just finished the draft of the adult memoir, which is the full story, which talks about my upbringing, my journey with my first two dogs, and the full journey with Tambo, and then the reconciliation with my dad. So that will be coming out this year as well. And then the end goal with all this is to get it to film. So
I love it. I love it.
And I think, and I say that, and it's not for any narcissistic way for me. I feel like this story is, and that's part of the reason that I do share it, is I feel like it's a story of hope. It's a story of loss. It's a story of redemption, and it's a story of a father and son coming back together when the odds of that happening were slim to none. And I feel like it's a story that the world needs to hear. And I feel like in a world now with so much chaos, I'd love to be able to bring that full circle.
Yeah, it's definitely, you need to do it. I love it. What do you feel? I know you said so many things, but I want to know, from your perspective, like what Tambo's taught you about yourself and all of this? Like, what have you learned? I mean, you said a lot of stuff here, but I just, to round this out.
He's really taught me about hope and about living in the present. And I think that, especially working in law enforcement and being a dad, there's days that I come home and you get caught, whether on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and you're scrolling through those reels, and then then I look down and my son's just waiting for me to play with them, and you can't get that time back. You can't get those moments back. And I think that sometimes we worry about stuff that's going to happen in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or we're worried about test results, or worried about something stupid, how clothes fit or something like that, but and the reality is in a week or two, it's not, some of that stuff's not going to matter, but what's right in front of us, we have that time. And that's what Tambo's taught me, is to really maximize the time that we have here, because life is a journey, and it goes by fast. And, I want to maximize that. And I've told Tambo, and I've said it in other interviews, when this cancer journey started, I told him, this is our final call. This is our last journey together. And, we're going to make the most of it together, however long that's going to be. And, he's really just taught me to maximize that, and to also just to have hope. And, hope, people say that hope is a mythical thing, but it's not. It's real. And you have to have it to thrive in life, and you have to have belief.
Yeah, I will agree with you on the hope thing. I just interviewed a lady the other day that's she's an actress, and she has such a crazy story, but she has stage 4 cancer, and crazy story. She went on Price is Right some years ago, and she tells this whole story about how her mother had something. I can't, I'm like drawing a blank right now what happened, but she ended up winning a car, and then she won the showcase, and she has this crazy story about how that day she just went in there, but she had this like faith, and then something ended up happening with her mom, and she was thankful that this had all happened, because it forced her mom to be somewhere, not, somewhere else, all this stuff. But her whole message was about, living in this moment and being present, and just having faith and hope, like just believing. And so she had said her doctors told her to live between treatments, and she's like, no, I'm going to live every day. Like, I'm just going to live every day. That was another one. Oh my gosh, I went through that one. I'm like, these powerful stories. And when I got done with that, it was interesting, because she sent me a message after, and she said that I had inspired her. And it was really mutually. It was both ways, because I had told her about and I don't have anything terminal, but I told her about these 2 rare conditions that I live with every single day, that I have to basically navigate. And I really never know how the day is going to go, because pretty much every day I have some pain that goes on. Sure. And it's landed me in the hospital multiple times, blah, blah, blah. But the point to this was, we were both really talking about this pausing and living in the moment, and you don't know what tomorrow's going to be. And time does go fast, because, Chris, I tell you, every day I get up, I'm looking at something from the 90s and thinking, how in the heck did 30 years go by, and I'm now in my early 50s? How did I wake up and I am now 50? Like, I remember graduating high school, like I remember going to college. How did we get here? And so
I know.
Can we say it? Live in the moment, live and enjoy the moment, right?
Yep. And I still live in the 90s with my music too. It's funny. You said 90s. Is that, one of the things that Tambo and I listened to when our working years, is I was a big Tupac fan. So I played Tupac all the time. So he got used to the music. So whenever we travel or we'll go to chemotherapy, he expected me to put that playlist on. So it's kind of become a staple for him and I.
It's so funny. Well, I'll tell you, all my kids are grown now, and it cracks me up, because I hear them. It's like I went to 9 Inch Nails twice this year, and both of my daughters actually like 9 Inch Nails. And then my daughter was going to, like, one point was going to Smashing Pumpkins concert, and then she was at Deftones, and I'm cracking up, because all this stuff, you're talking about playing your 90s for that. I do it for my 80s and 90s for my kids, and they're all playing like in the same music that I'm listening to.
It's crazy.
I'm still listening to it. So good stuff. Well, you know what, Chris, this has been awesome. And I know I'm already following you, and I'm sure that I have a feeling people after they listen to this are going to be like, where do we find Tambo so we can follow this story and follow Chris? So tell us where, website, Instagram, all those pages so that we can make sure we get these in the links for everybody.
Yep. Right now, my primary big following is on Instagram, and you can follow me at K9 Tambo. That's lowercase K, the number 9 _ Tambo, TAMBO. I have just expanded on to Facebook. I'm starting to build that up, and TikTok. And then I'm in the process of getting his website launched. And again, the book you can find on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Just type in K9 Tambo, and on my Instagram, I'll be now. I do a lot of updates on his health conditions, and I'll be, putting out when his book, or when the adult memoir is coming out. And I just want to say we have a big appointment tomorrow. Tomorrow is a big checkup for us. His last checkup, they did see some changes on his liver. We're hoping that it's only age related, but for some reason, if the cancer is back. Tambo and I are gonna face this head on like we have with every other challenge, and there's no doubt in my mind we'll continue to defy the odds with that.
Yeah, and I know you'll be updating everybody, so I will be tuning in to see what's going on with that as well. And I just want to commend you for being the fighter of Tambo, because like I said, obviously everybody listening to this is going to know that you and I are both pet people. It's like, no argument over here with the pets. I mean, like, I'm like the defender of the pets, I'm going to fight as long as I can with all of them. And I have, and I mean, I recognize at some point you have to do what's best, for everybody and the animal involved, but I get it. And I just want to commend you for being that loyal companion. And I know he's been a great, he's done his duty. He's done his service. And he deserves to have somebody like you standing by his side fighting for him. So I want to commend you for that.
Thank you so much. And I will have a video tomorrow with him with his pup cup. So
okay, I'm going to be looking for the pup cup. It's the best thing ever. I need to do that with my other one. She hasn't figured that out. Like, she likes them, but I'm telling you, that Catahoula, my dog, she tells me one day I look and I see him wobbling to get out. This was before he had gotten completely paralyzed. But I look, she says, that dog can't move. The minute you tell him pup cup, all of a sudden he's figured out how to walk again.
Right.
They love those pup cups. I have many fond memories of that dog and him being taking him in our van. We're like driving in the back with our ice creams, and he's like trying to get over the seat to get the ice cream out of our hands, So they're great. They're fun.
They
and
really
I want to, like I said, continue. I'm going to continue to watch and see what's going on with that. But you're awesome. And I hope to continue to, hope good for everybody on this.
Yes.
So we'll make sure too, when we do these show notes, we'll get these links in there so they know where to find the book, and then of course find you on the Instagram and all of that good stuff. And so thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me on, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Yeah. And of course, we do want to say to our audience, oh my gosh, we hope that you love this episode. We know you are. And of course, follow Chris, follow Tambo so you can keep up with what he's doing. And then, as we always say here, if you like the episode, share it, subscribe, comment, do all the things so that we can keep sharing all these amazing stories, and of course supporting our guests and you guys as well. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care of yourself, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.